this series is the one we think is going to go the longest, and then it becomes a battle of attrition. It becomes, are we going to see 26 plus rounds in a single map? Are you going to burn through your energy bank, right, through just one single map and then struggle to get through the second and third? How is your attention span going to hold up? Can you duelists stay focused for that long? Because let's be honest here, throughout our mainstay season, Dallas, it's not like we saw very many map threes. It's not like we saw very many series really go into overtime. We didn't see until about halfway through the initial entry plays, right, into our plans, and then even then it felt like one of those maps was almost always going to be like a 13-2, 13-3, so it didn't feel like a really long sought out thing. It just was like, okay, another map on top, so it's whatever at the end of the day. This is where I'm expecting to see these maps go to long distance engagements, where ultimately it's going to be decided, in my opinion, by that map pool. Games can be won, games can be lost in the veto phase, and I feel like this is an important one. It's not St. Clair having to worry about Breeze, but if you've been sneaking a map in your pool for this long and not playing it in hopes that you could bring it out in playoffs, this is the time to shine.
Yeah, I mean, going ahead, talking about those maps, see what they're kind of going ahead and getting rolling here. It's going to kick off with the Pearl and Abyss being banned out, and the Split and Bind being the two guaranteed to kick things off. So, I mean, going to be a bit interesting there. We do know that West Virginia does not like to kind of have these awkward maps, and even then, Stony Brook doesn't like to have these big, elaborate maps. They love the Lotus during the last split. They love the kind of more smaller maps, the Corrode inside of this one. So, understandably so, going for that split, going for a little more of aggressive play, knowing when you can find these trades so initially and kind of outright and aggressively, it's one of those things where we can see them really make a run here. And West Virginia, I think it also is one of those maps where we can see that testament to what Leonie's been doing inside the IGL role, because the smaller the map is, the easier the calls kind of come together because the entire team is in play there and the rotations come through much quicker.
Yeah, maps are so important for these teams, and if you also want to be a little bit part of history here for Division 1, and remember, once again, pick'ems over on the Division 1 website to take your votes and get your chance for Valorant points and more, even some good peripherals to win for free. Make sure to check that out on the website. It'll be live until about 1 or 2 rounds into the series. You'll have your chance to be a part of Division 1 history just for the playoff berth, as we did not do it for the entire time like you mentioned earlier, Dallas. But I think this is an overall very good map pool for both sides. It's really hard to say who's going to necessarily have an edge, but if there's one map I'm really looking at in that best of 3, it is that map 2 is looking at Bind. This has been such a difficult map for so many teams, and kind of this thorn in the side for many a team here in Division 1. Just look at Grand Finals last split. Maryville facing off against St. Clair. Maryville comes in on map 3. They 13-0'd a team. That is a Grand Finalist team of St. Clair, and they 13-0'd them on the map of Bind. And I talk a lot about teams where, or maps where good teams go to die. They've been in the pool forever. They've been around for a long time. So you see a lot of teams wanting to default to there. But the issue is, you may know it, but do they know it more than you because they've been playing just as long as you and maybe have that little bit of an edge? Maps like that scare me as a talent, scare me as a viewer for the team that you would root for. Now you turn it over to the first map of Split. This is totally different. This feels like a priority pick for some teams. This feels like a pick a team would make as a conscious effort and choice to say, we really like this style. We like our agent select. If you're West Virginia, you like bringing out that Sage. You really like seeing Gucci on their primary controller choice of Omen. And then some maps you see them kind of shift over, but this is the Omen that in my eyes, I'm used to seeing this player on. You turn that over for Stony Brook. Where do you have that's different? And a lot of this is going to come down to that duelist choice, the Waylay over the Raze. Can you make full impact with that? And can you make that shift in this double sentinel setup to find value here out of both those players?
Yeah, I mean, the double sentinel setup's obviously going to carry a lot of weight for you to kind of slow things down when you're on the opposing side of the field, but you're kicking things off of the attacking side. You're the one who chose this map. West Virginia are the ones who ended up kind of wanting to play a little bit more of a standard game in the layout. Talking about that lineup, this initial engagement, talking about that duelist matchup there, it is already gunny, kicking things off and finding the first frag. So we're going to see that a lot more, I feel like, over the course of this, but to go ahead and get things running, that Waylay, expectedly so, has looked much better, has been much more consistent, and it seems like teams have really gone ahead and got really used to her entire kit. But as things continue to move on, Excite finds the second one there, and it is, the exchange is just coming through here. So great looks, kind of, I mean, Stony Brook having themselves a presence, getting the lockdown, and there it is. None other than Abel cleaning things up, finding 4 for the round and making the first on Stony Brook's name.
I think the craziest part about that was Excite swinging that corner of pillar, trying to hunt for the gun that was dropped, because they were just trying to gain a little bit of value for the later, remnants of when Stony Brook could move into that objective. And Abel just sits stalwart in that corner just below walkway, capitalizes on that first kill, and that turns into a snowball effect for the next 2, 3, 4 in total, right? And that opens things up as a Sage to create the possibility of now having the Resurrect be online as early as possible. Turns this from a 5v5 to a very quickly a 6v5. From a 3 versus 5 where you're a 3-man deficit, right? Turns it into a 4v5, makes things manageable, and gets that gun back online. That is something I think Stony Brook are going to hunt for, and you obviously know West Virginia will do the exact same thing. That the ultimate will more likely than not come in Stony Brook's favor first and foremost. Speaking of their favor, though, it looks to be an A-site push. This ult war, but likely to be denied for any contestation here by West Virginia. Just that toxic screen should do enough, and Gunny gun up, hoping to hunt down this walkway player here with the stinger, but pays the price for that, thanks to the Bandit from Excite.
Yeah, I mean, Bandit going to be coming into play here, obviously, being a nice gun there for the secondary round. If you get that headshot inside the range, you just didn't find it on to Majestic there. But Leonie's still making a little bit of work, getting some good damage down back towards those screens, and you're looking to see what the remainder of West Virginia can manage. And considering they don't really have the guns in hand, they're going to be more so maybe looking for those exits, kind of seeing if anything sets themselves up, because you can already see one player allocated out of Thomas back towards that spawn side. But even then still, you have over towards this kind of attacker spawn, A77 setting up a pinch. So Gucci and A77 are 2 players we have constantly hyped up that are not in that duelist role. And what they can do is insurmountable, but will the timing be there? Finds one, questionable on another. Heal doesn't go through completion over towards Gucci, and it's just A77 knowing that, let me go ahead and back up, see what we got. We knocked him down to 2. Stony Brook at a second round, but only having 2 players remaining to carry things over into the next. Sure, some good weaponry. Stinger Bulldog in hand. I mean, you can't be mad about those, but up against the likes of Phantoms and Vandals coming here into round number 3 with West Virginia's full arsenal, it's going to be a little more difficult in a map like this.
I mean, the whole value point you're looking for if you're West Virginia is if you can squeak it around win, obviously that's a good factor, but even if you lose, which is the anticipated results, you're trying to drop weapons out of Stony Brook's hand. Any weapon you can drop makes this third round that much more feasible, and obviously the better you win round 3 thanks to the weapon differential will make round 4 that much more manageable when it finally comes to true rifle on rifle scenarios. For West Virginia, I think they accomplished their task in round 2. Just a Stinger and a Bulldog to carry over. That's going to force Stony Brook to make decisions here in a couple of their players, and they chose that with Gunny now with the Bucky in hand, who's made a lot of space here, clears out ropes, gets all the way down below, scared to really enter into tower just yet as the Hender made no contact and nobody was there visible. West Virginia doing a very good job of kind of vacating the premises when it came to that initial confrontation, and now the battle will come on here towards the B site where it looks like the majority of Stony Brook are primed and ready to go into. 2 through garage, a third one now joining in, Paranoia to connect. Gucci in a very bad spot, completely caught with the gun stuck up and utility in hand. A77 has to refrag, gets a second for their troubles, but just a 2-for-2 opener, and Stony Brook, despite the weapon differential, have now gained 2 proper rifles, and this now sets up a rifle-on-rifle scenario for the remaining 2 on site as Dinks executes Majestics, who was watching towards mailbox, and that kill from Abel steps up for a resurrection, making this back to a 3-on-3. Players no longer at the disadvantage, and guns for West Virginia have to be perfect from this moment onwards. Guiding Light does not connect to anybody. Shots go forward for both sides. Gunny and Abel each finding one. Can Abel hold on to this angle here from Leone? Leone needs to step up and swing a home run because they gotta line up 2. Knocks down Abel first. Gunny in the distance needs to connect. It does so as Leone steps up to the plate for West Virginia and will guarantee them this third round win.
I mean, good looks there by a very thin margin, but managed nonetheless. It's a huge testament to what Stony Brook can accomplish, even when they're at a deficit when we're talking about this map. It's a selection that they wanted to go to. It's a selection they wanted to kick off with, and something where we talk about the playoff stage, where these teams start to lock in. One of these maps where Stony Brook, more than likely, they haven't really brought this out too much over the course of the regular season, but something that obviously was igniting into them to bring out here and today. And, well, we're already seeing glimpses of it, but there's a lot more rounds to go. West Virginia kind of hang on by a thread for that last one and keep things running. But in round number 4, we see Stony Brook right back up to these full rifles, now having that arsenal under their wings, while West Virginia are set kind of back at home. Well, we're going to see whether or not we can get that same answer out of West Virginia, maybe find those exchanges, even then get it down to a threshold of a singular player. Well, we have to find out and see here whether or not this hold's actually going to create that.
Gunny up above. Great piece of utility usage there for Stony Brook. for the wrong side, unfortunately, but they still make plenty of space in the process as they clear it. Gucci with a judge executes Thomas, but A77 cannot survive in the same way. Goes down to the Phantom once more of Gunny. And it's the Stony Brook roster trying to continue to push that pressure forward. They pay the price. Excites Phantom connects against their doppelganger on the opposing end, and able slow to rotate into this objective. Now it's to worry about the two players moving up through this stairwell. Great stun out onto one, but it doesn't matter. Excited Leone each find a piece of the pie, and West Virginia are thrashing this Stony Brook roster in round 4. Easy point to defuse. The spike is not a point of contention, and West Virginia will come away 4 players living strong entering into round 5.
One thing that hasn't really come into play too much yet, but definitely could over the course of the series, is West Virginia. The last time I remember seeing them on this map was the likes of what Dinks was doing on that Raze. I mean, obviously we talked about kind of the duelist matchup, but I mean, this guy, he managed to find what felt like, I think at least like 5 to 7 kills on utility alone. It was again and again and again. And even then, while the shots may have come from the gun, the setups and everything in those clutch scenarios when he was retaking that B site specifically, it always felt like that heaven control was a huge point for him whenever going for those retakes. So, I mean, if you were Stony Brook, you were having to allocate players towards this middle of the map. Make sure they don't get these kind of heaven, you know, eyes in the sky kind of perspectives for these retakes to really go ahead and kind of snipe off all your remaining players that are kind of scattered about. And we saw it there. The control towards heaven. Dinks getting that first kill. We saw Abel not really kind of go on a string there. It's again and again, this kind of could be a hemorrhaging problem for them if they don't opt in for that A side a little more consistently.
Yeah, I'd like to see them make that shift over there if possible. But in an eco round like they're in right now, you'd kind of expect them to poke and prod for a first blood. If they lose one out, try to catch another one off guard elsewhere. That's the attempt here from Abel to execute out Gucci on site. There are 2 teammates they left in mid. Make it 3 teammates they left in mid. Unfortunately, not having very many points of success, but this one has been kind of thrown out in the open. Big Tonkati not only takes down 2 towards Mail, but sends out Annihilation and also secures a 3rd. A huge way to set things up now possible as they get Gucci isolated to a 1v1, and though there is only 12 HP left, they'll be caught off by A77. You eviscerated the economy of West Virginia here, even bringing A77 to the point to question whether or not they should use the Resurrect. Just save a couple credits on top and get a player back up to have a rifle to work with. But I think with the 4 players that were still alive and thriving in the round before, they'll have plenty of credits for the next one. They opt not to do so, but that is a great way to set things up for Big Tonkati to once again show out, like we mentioned to start this series, how good they can be and how important they are in some of these rounds. Unfortunately, the rest of the team just not there to meet that same margin.
Yeah, that resurrection call not really kind of, I think, even coming into play. Just kind of just a press of the button to more of an idle stance situation, considering that West Virginia have won the last 3 in a row, and their economy's looking pretty darn good. So all things considered, you know, the Stony Brook, they are the ones who are hemorrhaging. They are the ones who would be considering these kinds of avenues here if they had those resurrections in play, but they just really don't. It really comes down to what happens again with how many players and they lose in this initial skirmish towards the middle of the map, trying to find that middle control and making sure that heaven control's in play for whatever site they end up opting in for. But talking about that presence, we see a lot more towards that B side again. We're seeing them really be stubborn going for this left side of the map because, A, keep in mind, this is where we usually see those Vipers kind of going ahead and lurking about. There is no Viper on Stony Brook. We don't see this solo wall setup coming through for them. Instead, they want to play a lot more together. They want to have an Omen in play instead to kind of bypass any maybe traps, but there is no traps here. It's just bullets being rung out right through into that garage and finding already a player on the side of Stony Brook, and well, A77 is going to keep the train going.
Oh, you fall back instantly. Very 7-7. Let Gucci rely on that angle. Another one taken down. Big Tonkati not able to meet their maker. And now A77 gets a 3rd for their trouble. Player sitting just on the inside lit of that billboard. And Thomas alone able to strike 2 for 1, but that will be it. West Virginia talked about the 3-round spree and the hemorrhaging Stony Brook we're doing. That has not stopped whatsoever. And bear in mind, Split is a map, Dallas, that goes very predominantly one side over the other, but you would have hoped to see an attacking side take advantage of the speed, take advantage of these angles, and get onto these objectives. We've not been able to see that, and I think a large part of that is due in choice to their double sentinel selection. We talked a lot about saying, hey, you're expecting to see a lot of value from that in that second half, but it's weighing you down here in the first, and if you're being weighed down by it on your attack, you have to survive this attacking half to even make that a point of contention for that second, because West Virginia, when we're evenly split 50-50 between both sides. Convergent path is used. It's just gorgeous against Dinks. Thomas gonna take it down in the refrag by Excite, but you had to refrag that back if you were able, and unfortunately, not only do you fail to do so, A77 makes that first kill completely useless, and Gunny's been spotted retracting out of that area and will be locked away from the angle in the first place thanks to an ice wall that is such a pain in the rear to go against when you only have eco weapons like sheriffs to go to shoot it down.
Last player standing.
Yeah, just looking for a little more here. I like Stony Brook maybe trying to keep a bit of a contention point here, but it's just not going to come around. West Virginia find themselves a 5th in a row, showing Stony Brook, I mean, surely this was your map selection, right? You guys are going the double sentinel, so we sure hope you're ready for that defense, because attack is looking like nothing but West Virginia once those guns get in their hands. And you guys start considering, well, maybe if you put them into an eco situation, when is that going to happen? We see so much money on their side that's welled up where we can at least see a couple more come through, and it just comes down to then what is the difference maker? Well, in that case, it has to be the ultimates, right? You have a couple, you know, seekers and from the shadows and around like this, but the dimensional dress still didn't even do enough in the last one.
I think the fear right now is you don't want to be the old man that yells at the clouds, right? And I feel like if Stony Brook's entire thing is that we just got to get you to an eco round and start getting a snowball effect, we just got to put you there. You can't just wait and rely on it, right? You have to make that. You have to make that a possibility. You have to confirm that aspect. And despite having such a gorgeous start to this series, right, it hasn't necessarily been very clean past that. Good flush away. GrabNet will manage to collect onto A77. Gucci will get isolated in that corner of Garage and go down. But A77 only has one player actually pressuring them in Garage and is an easy 1v1 when this player steps up to the plate to swing their bat and take one down. Showstopper out for Dinks, tries to refrag and avenge Excite, accomplishes that task and stays alive. And Stony Brook, despite really feeling like they had an opener into that A site, so them saying we were hoping to see them kind of transition towards this objective, I don't think they feel very strongly about if they could take this objective in a very strong manner, considering they now know this raise is here. And the second question is going to be, is that Viper we haven't confirmed the location of also going to be here? And I think these Seekers have confirmed that fact. Now, sending you off in towards security and sending that player into the afterlife, the resurrection for one, but
oh my God,
shuts it down, makes this to an even 2v2 all over again. You knew where the Viper was, found it out, but you lost sight of the raise, and Dinks makes sure that you will be punished for 13 seconds and ticking. Boost pack to move Gunny. Can't aim right. Now you find out Abel's location. They've got to get a hold of that spike, and it's just a matter of time. A77 from up above. Here's the spike start to go down. It's a swing and a free kill. Yet another for West Virginia.
Another time where I talk about, I mean, Dinks obviously with the B side, but here on A, I mean, he's stationed there off rip for a reason. I would rather hold A and play for the retake B because, well, if that's your strongest pathing there, why don't you just go ahead and run it? I mean, why not? Even then, still, the biggest concern I think there was me just looking at the mini-map. When is A77 going to show up? Because this guy has been absolutely locking in kill after kill, and even then, still, such an easy call with so little time remaining on the clock. Do you go for that plant? Do you understand the circumstances, whether or not this could be maybe a fake coming through? The intent has to come out right, and understand, hey, I'm not just wait a little bit, because either time locked out or I killed him during the animation getting up. Speaking of killing, Gunny's kicking things off right in the middle, clearing out those vents a little bit, allowing that A site to open up that they opted for. But A77 is going to have a bit of an idea that maybe they're going to push. Who knows? Dinks finds one, 77 for two, but can't find the third.
This is the perfect moment. Stony Brook get that opener, but cannot capitalize on really anything after the fact. And so much value for West Virginia all over inside a tower, and it just gets worse. They get onto side. Gucci takes down one of the only two remaining. Abel now alone on site can get this spike down, but in a 2 versus 1, all West Virginia need to do is to make sure they swing in tandem and don't let these get isolated into individual 1v1 battles like we've seen fail off towards Garage. Excite knows that they've cleared away the ice wall. Did they hear both guns going out? This is the perfect chance. Abel doesn't get flashed in time, somehow knocks down Dinks and takes down Excite just the same. What a round out of Abel. 3 kills needed and required, and accomplishes the task set out for them. And Stony Brook getting the 3rd round win and stopping the 6th round spree we saw West Virginia gain for themselves.
Yeah, what an awkward fight there. And even then, what a more awkward decision coming out from West Virginia. I mean, having those 2 guiding lights available to your name, I'm expecting maybe one of those kind of go close towards that rope to let you know if somebody's kind of hiding around that rope or inside that left cubby, or even then still use the second one for actually engaging the fight on site, because you got a whole extra player there. But just alone, that indecisiveness lets you have a player to be picked off essentially for free because the trade couldn't come into play there. And the second fight after, therefore, being a little more awkward. So one-sided to say the least, but that is not the name of this matchup in terms of how we're already at 6-3. I mean, Stony Brook find a little bit of an answer back, have the deadlock annihilation on hand, but it's not going to come into play just yet. Instead, they're feeling things out, knowing the operators up towards A heaven, and understandably so, not wanting to really push that too much.
There's not really a big question up in the air entirely where to head to. You can just default, kind of spread yourself thin and figure out what is next for you on the docket, and without any pressure really gained towards you towards garage, this feels like a pretty freebie space to kind of take advantage of. The issue is you would put no one here towards alley, no one in mid, which then brings the problem. A77 can flank this way, catch a player or two off guard, completely throw this round up in the air. There's the from the shadows now offline, thanks to the execution for Thomas. Gucci goes unseen in a corner, knocks down 3, and just screams West Virginia's name into the skies, into the heavens, and sends Stony Brook the opposite direction to conclude that round.
Yeah, just good looks there from Gucci. I mean, obviously, already vulnerable up. I mean, easy kills going through there, and nobody even checking that left side. I mean, it's an omen on that site, y'all. Keep in mind, you haven't been over here towards B in a while, and Gucci will be stationed there. So, I mean, the attendance check I always talk about during round number 2, you guys have done way more. We're on round number 11 at this point. You guys should know where people are, and even if you don't, you should have a good idea of what's kind of going to be in front of you. I mean, you're Stony Brook. You played this game so many times before. You should know how these games are played, and well, quite frankly, in that round you just kind of forgot.
All right, movement into space. Gunny wants to work alongside that Tasmanian Tiger for intel. Gets caught out by a ton of utility on the opposite end, though, and even gets grabnated by their own teammate, a Big Tonka T all over again. And this is another moment where you have the resurrection online, Dallas. Might as well use it. You have to get rounds in this first half, and you're running out of rounds to accomplish that task in front of you. Leone will be the first target in the space, really, of this Stony Brook roster. You are kind of testing the odds over on Stairwell just the same with your Sage. If you peek this, you'll have a high-low kind of set up for Stony Brook, but Leone could be there for that crossfire. Gunny spotted on the transition over. You make the call to your Sage, hey, watch out, but A77 can't survive that rush, and Gunny will trade out that Bucky in for a Vandal and use the ultimate on site to slow out and just demoralize the West Virginia's chances. Gucci connects 2 with the paranoia. That levels out for 2 more, and Excite takes advantage from the crossfire through alley. 2v1 Dinks. Showstopper is out. Tasmanian Tiger will confirm its location, and Abel just tries to survive. There's the Showstopper finally sent around the corner, and it just barely licks the rear of Abel and tears them apart. It's 8 rounds now for West Virginia. 1 more to go in this half, and there's not been anything out of Stony Brook that feels like they want to confirm this round is theirs.
Well, keep in mind, double Sentinel on the field. They're expecting this second half to kind of go their way. Problem is, are we going to see that is still the big question mark, because, I mean, by that point, West Virginia can lock them out enough where, quite frankly, it doesn't matter, especially when you tack on those 2 rounds coming through with the pistol. But they didn't win the last one, so it's still a coin flip to see whether or not we're going to see a trend inside this game and this match overall. But seeing West Virginia once more, I mean, great looks on the hold, seeing how they're kicking things off, the answers, the executions, the late round stages are great, but the shots from Dinks are just barely a miss.
Paint shells to kind of ward off if anyone does happen to drop into sight. Gunny, though, who's been kind of the opener for Stony Brook in that duelist position, has a lot of weight on their shoulders, and unfortunately, that weight in this first half will disappear as they fall down on site. Excite once again. This is a player they've been super reliant on for West Virginia. And even though they've had Gucci, who's been such a clean fragger despite not being a duelist, and been able to level things up here with the paranoias, the dark covers, all these smoke plays, and been really good in these final 3v3 kind of scenarios against the Stony Brook roster, the openers have always been either Dinks or Excite. And you expect that of Dinks, but Excite has made their presence known, and this feels like a guarantee. Though the headshot from Thomas is not guaranteed, but they're good for it. Sheriff connects against Excite, and Leone wants to step into this dark cover and kind of press into the space that feels like it's already claimed by Stony Brook. But with Dinks taking that operator shot to the head of Big Tonka T, don't you know you only need to hit the torso there, buddy? That will knock down not just that first player moving into space, but the second one just the same. Left. Now both players stuck on this catwalk for Stony Brook. The audio cue will be kind of masked by the Roomba of Dinks, but the shots will still ring out and connect. That guiding light much too slow, and the next shot much too far to the side, but time is not on the side of Majestic, and with the red time ticking, it's every player for themselves. It feels like for West Virginia. Snakebite into the corner, Resurrect to make this a 4v1. Everyone pressing in, though Majestic is clean for the first connection towards Gucci. They just have to spray through the screen to find their frag, and they'll accomplish the task. 9-3 at halftime. Yes, this can be a defending-sided map, especially if you have 2 Sentinels. But this is not the way I think Stony Brook anticipated this first half going.
Yeah, I mean, high hopes here for West Virginia in the second half, all things considered. But, I mean, once again, we talk about how this map is a one-sided affair, it feels like, in time. So this could be one of those instances where Stony Brook, once again, now being on the defense, having that double sentinel, they should look good for kind of creating a hold or at least stalling things out. Because in the post-plant scenario, that's where you're supposed to excel on the attacking side with those double sentinel situations. But a lot of the Sage utility was invested there, kind of going, facilitating those kind of rotations, making sure to lock down the middle of the map, make sure that skirmish kind of goes more towards your direction to lock down the area, feel, claustrophobic for West Virginia. But they never really care because they never really bought it. They never got to that part of the map or felt like they were inclined to really get in those affairs there. So instead, we're going to now see on these sites, having one towards each area of the map, we're going to see a lot of early walls coming through from Abel. We're going to see a lot of early walls coming through out of Tonka T as well. So speaking of those early walls already going ahead and being demolished, it feels like they are maybe sniffing out Abel through that wall with the crosshair being in place. And Wayne, you hit those all day with the cheers and oohs and ahs. And as of right now, it's just got the question marks and shots raining as we see West Virginia seemingly being knocked down as Stony Brook hold on strong with 4 alive.
And that is a blind fire effort from Stony Brook, quite literally. Paranoias and everything else coming at them, stuck within smokes and everything, kind of boiling into this giant fight up on ramp just short of that tower side on A. And Stony Brook come out the victor, and will set up at least the start of this second half, similar to the way they did in that first. Get the pistol, try to confirm the second thereafter, stay in the standard mold of Valorant, that 2-1 start. But do not let things fall into a 6-in-a-row spree like West Virginia collected themselves in the first. You don't have that leeway. You don't have that to give up. And if this goes to the expected 10-5 scoreline, if you do see that 2-1 start, that just means 3 rounds, 3 mistakes of rounds really in front of you that Stony Brook cannot allow to go in West Virginia's favor. Though they'll fight here for the Old Torp inside a lobby. This is where Gunny's gun could be the most important factor, but I think the intel utility like the Tasmanian Tiger spotting 2 will confirm that you need to very quickly act on this, and Gunny wants it. Hinder into the corner, does well. There's still one more in there. The question is, can you find it? The paint shells will force you back, and the flashes make matters even worse. Majestic dealt with by the Bandit of A77. It's a 2-for-1 early start, but West Virginia have also bled out in every other position they've tried to move into, and it's 2 players just meagerly remaining, forced to rotate here into mid-alley.
I mean, still having Spike in their presence, so they could find this kill up towards heaven or inside mail on the Tonka T. Maybe manage to find themselves some leeway there. Maybe queuing even in just a rotation alone. But still, you have obviously players, so many on the side of Stony Brook, where they can just kind of hold strong wherever they are. So unless they're doubling down to a degree, and there you see it right there. I mean, obviously, Waylay and Omen, little duo stacking on top of each other here. Waiting for the recollection over towards A side as well, with those kind of little swings coming through. Gunny does find a little bit of an exchange, but comes out on top, finding a 4th here for the round. So pistol round and the one after acquired once more for the likes of Stony Brook. The pistol rounds look good for them. Their ratio is looking great in that regard, but it was everything following that things just started to really start coming down for the side of Stony Brook. So we're going to see whether they can get a hold a little bit stronger on this half of the field, maybe feel a little more confident on this defense and kind of get things running again.
Yeah, well, 5 rifles have been in the hands of West Virginia, and there's not really been anything forced out here for Stony Brook in comparison to the round before. They have, yes, 2 Buckies and a couple SMGs, but the only luxury they have is they kind of get to choose when they want to take these fights first, if they'd like to, on defense, to get that information as early as possible. But you'll have a ton of intel early thanks to the shots from the rifles going into your ice wall of Able to clear out that alleyway. A lot of what you see from these ice walls is not just the attempt to slow things down, but it's a way to gather information. First, you're forcing them to shoot it to clear it. Second, it creates a more fatal funnel. That's why you see teams like West Virginia here not just take out a single pillar of that ice wall, but actually 2 to kind of widen that gap. Still, a very much so smaller angle of approach that's available for West Virginia unless they choose to wait out the remainder of those pillars. But I think the defaulting right now from them, this 1-3-1 split, is just kind of biding time to see if anyone from the B or A site over contests into these lobbies where they can maybe get punished for doing so. But that is not the case, and instead it's a battle of utility here in mid in hopes one player peeks out with an SMG or shotgun to kind of get that close range fight in their way.
Yeah, waiting for these little kind of peaks coming through. Maybe just a small side of eyes-to-eye contact here, but nothing being given over. A lot of utility being invested there off the get-go inside the middle of the map to kind of go ahead and find that control there where you can, and even in the guiding light coming through, going ahead and giving the cue for the rest of the players, Stony Brook, to go ahead and maybe make that rotation preemptively, because there's 25 seconds on the clock. If there is a time and a place they are going, it is now. But if you are West Virginia, you have to check every single corner, because if you don't, Majestic will run through your team with a singular Bucky, creating a round loss once more. 9 seconds. This isn't going to be done. And Thomas even put the final nail in the coffin for round number 15. It's Stony Brook again.
This is exactly what Stony Brook needed to make this second half possible. Break through that standard mold, define a new half, and force West Virginia to not only lose out everything they purchased in that third round, but also question what's to come in round 4, question what's to come in round 5. A timeout called, giving them 60 seconds to break things down. And after that loss, they can't even look at this next round. As a matter of fact, they cannot look at this eco that's likely to come in from this Thrifty to chance things out and say, hey, we can barely do anything in these rounds. We have rifles. We're forced into the pacing and tempo of Stony Brook because of their double sentinel selection. We may just need to go in fast and heavy towards this B site in this eco and then go back to our status quo of a rifle slow pacing kind of into the hands of Stony Brook. But I think the one thing they should learn after that round is that there is truly no gimmies. There were truly no corners that can go unchecked, and they have to make sure they're not punished in that regard. The big way we saw was the losses they had faced against St. Clair. Obviously, JP in those corners over towards Corrode, big issue. Majestic doing the exact same thing in a very similar cubby and opening out onto the A site in comparison to the B for that map. These are corners that have to be cleared. These are players that cannot be left without being swung correctly. And now after the 60-second timeout in Dallas, West Virginia, what have they accomplished across their team to say what is in for this eco round? How do we play it? And it looks to be they're still wanting to go for a semblance of a default, or at least set up the utility like they will default, as they still move that Viper over towards the A side with that toxic screen and hopes maybe a player pushes forward and they could strike for a free kill if required.
Just looking really for anything here on the side of West Virginia, obviously. I mean, another round loss for them. I mean, things could look a little bit better if you have a secondary player there to maybe trade you. But it's nothing on the side of West Virginia, just a little bit different there towards the middle of the map. Understandably so, still having a Viper allocated over towards that A main area of the map, seeing if you can stretch up a little bit, maybe find a kill off the back of that. But the deadlock wall is in play, so it's going to go ahead and slow things down monumentally. And I'm sure that was probably the intended purpose of that deadlock in play. Creating that stall, making sure Viper has to either make noise or at least wait super long before that even does come into play. And by the time that wall probably comes through, well, Venom and everything else beyond, even then, including players, just going to be completely expunged, where Stony Brook have a flawless round one in their hand once more.
Yeah, this is exactly what you had to see, really, from Stony Brook. Not even what you wanted to see from Stony Brook. If they're going to step in that first half, being stuck in that double sentinel, they need to make the most of where it is most valuable over on that defensive side, because West Virginia played to the strengths of their agent selection. They did not fall victim to the strengths of Stony Brook's on their attacking side. They didn't overpressure for map control. Talk a lot about the 3 zones of territory in the game of Valorant: defender territory, attacker territory, no man's land. West Virginia didn't vie that often for no man's land, and the only no man's land they would push into was the occasional round by A77 here towards mid. But now Stony Brook's defense going in for a high-low, beautifully done from Abel and Majestic to secure a first blood. And on top of that one, Majestic didn't even have to swing it, besides being just a mere distraction, and can kind of wait behind that ice wall with a judge to knock another player off the board if they do try to overextend to hunt down that player of Abel who got that first blood for the side of Stony Brook.
I mean, again, Stony Brook already kicking things off well. I mean, this defense form looking stellar. I mean, obviously allocating themselves for it to kick things off, but even then still making sure they follow up aggressively. I mean, when you look at the double sentinel, you're expecting to maybe kind of play back towards these spawns a little more so, kind of play around these sites. But I mean, that may be the curveball they were trying to employ from the get-go. It's expecting this double sentinel, having all this denial, that if it happens, it's more so going to be when they're kind of on that retreat compared to when they're going to be playing aggressively, because, well, we've seen a whole lot of that so far. So a good pick to get things off for that A-site control out of Excite. You got 2 players remaining. A77 has found so many kills on the opposing side of the field, but now on the attacking side, when you're once again kind of effectively playing defense, you could be good for it. But Excite may make it so easy of a job for you if he manages to pick off the rest here. It may not matter.
1 enemy remaining.
Oh, and the perfect call for that Seeker as it rotated to go up that walkway and into tower. A77 knocks down one more. Now Excite can hold this crossfire, moving into lobby, and Majestic so much from this one player, but the question will ultimately be, can they accomplish clearing out this lobby without going down? They do. Guiding line around the bend, but A77 swings it first, knocks him down a peg, and puts West Virginia up to double digits. They have been bleeding in the second half, Dallas, but a miracle was required of them in round 17 to get the win under their belt, and they do so well. But now, even with that win, thanks to the 4 in a row from Stony Brook, credits are not a problem, but they kind of are stringing about for West Virginia. They'll have to have some region shields and soft armor for majority of these players, and on top of that, they don't even have these ultimates fully online just yet. The resurrection will even the odds out if they lose that first blood, which they've done every single round here on this attacking side, but they would like to get another ultimate on the docket, and maybe a showstopper to open things up would be a great way for West Virginia to start off a big round like this.
Keep in mind, I mean, credits don't have to literally do everything here. It's still the work. And, well, who works the most? It's usually the middle class, right? So, I mean, these guys not having everything they want, but they still have everything they need. Still managing to find every kill there towards the middle of the map that does peek up their way and manage to bring that momentum maybe over towards the A site, because Leonie's already allocated over here, has not fully extended just yet, knows that deadlock wall is still in play, but with it finally going ahead and going up, Thomas going to have a bit of a counteracted Dark Shroud coming through, giving a bit of a ruse to maybe who could be around, but you know it's going to be close enough because they got to be close enough for the audible to go off to let you know that wall has now dropped. But having the 2 players there, they don't know about the one over towards screen, but if they do go ahead and push up through that heaven, knowing Gucci's back towards garage, if they're fast enough, they could still find themselves a very overwhelming man advantage.
Thanks goes to the boost pack swing into heaven. Guiding Light connects well against Gunny, but they flick just enough to make this next fight that much more manageable. Hinder towards Leone. Did it make contact? It did. It's second gun. Third from Gunny. And Gucci has to make everything possible from that garage angle, and Thomas is shutting things down. Down for 2. Gunny and Gucci in the 1v1 on side. Can't survive it, and it's Gucci in a 1v1 with Spike desperately needing to be collected. Dark cover down on site, and they'll plant this Spike for their claim it control. No way to pressure this. And it's a 1v1 post-plant scenario. Gucci having father time working for them with how early in Thomas can contest this. Dallas, father time feels like a non-factor, and it's all guns and all. Thomas, 3 kills for Stony Brook's Thomas, and it's 7 rounds. No, make it 8. 2-round difference between these 2 rosters.
So awkward in that fight, but I mean, you gotta love it between the omens. I mean, even then, Thomas prompting them from the shadows, going ahead, understandably so, putting that pressure on Gucci, saying, go ahead, brother, pop yours too, go to the A site, meet me in the octagon. But still, understandably so, you don't see that cue there. You know he's not going for the feint, so what do? Just cancel it, stay on site. You're playing this. You can even go towards the opposite side, back towards garage. The world is your playground at this moment, but still, so many questions and not enough answers there of what could have been done. And well, obviously there's a simple solution. Just aim, hit your shots there, but still that's a lot to ask for. Good exchanges to kick things off, even though the kills weren't all in play. It's a nice exchange considering West Virginia don't really have the guns in hand.
It's got to be frustrating for West Virginia. We talked a lot about the battle of attrition effect and the mental factor for it. How much is this weighing on West Virginia's shoulders? Is there any stress for them? Is this kind of just another day in the office? Conversion pass is readied from Gunny. This is an interesting choice to maybe pressure forward. They do have another player holding ropes that's able, just kind of poking and prodding between the 2. If they see any player swing through this archway, I think the call will be made for this conversion pass, and that will make contact with every single player, but now 2, and they'll go for it. Excite gets the kill. This one able to be shut down. Leone, despite being in there and hindered, still takes down 1. And West Virginia have a player advantage, and it's just them deciding which objective hit it into. 45 seconds. They could rotate to B if they wanted to, and you saw them kind of testing to go back towards lobby, but no, they opt in. They drop down hard, and A77 will get punished as Thomas sits inside security. Cover will go down, but does not matter. No, sorry, Paranoia will go down, does not matter. When it goes down, it may will matter. Is Leone here with the Viper's Pit. They're sitting in a very obvious location, but Annihilation still does not make contact. And Big Tonka T's Deadlock will find now no space to work into. Thomas shuts down Excite. Leone alone. It talked a lot about the weight on this player's shoulder. There's never been a moment more big than this one right here, and this Viper's Pit does not extend safely into security. Leone will have to peek into 2. Gets spotted by Big Tonka T first, and Tony shuts him down. It's 9 rounds for Stony Brook, and just 1 round separates these 2 rosters.
Just a quick little call here. If you're following along at home and you did go in for those pick'ems, well, if you put over for the next one, well, you were locked in for that. And keep in mind to go ahead and lock yours in for that second series of the day between Boise State and St. Clair. But at the moment, obviously, round number 20 guaranteed. West Virginia have to still find themselves 3 more to clear out this first map. And well, I think they're in a good spot to do it. Finally have a bit of economy, finally have themselves a good stance to kind of get right back into the running here. But there's still a lot more at play here from Stony Brook. I mean, this defense from them time and time again, just beyond the utility alone, their frags seems like they feel a lot more comfortable in this defense in terms of just shooting, because the flicks have been a lot more present. The kind of strings of kills have been a lot more present. It just feels like they feel much better here.
Ooh, showstopper. I wanted to see it earlier. It comes out, but Dinks can get no distance off of it thanks to the judge for Majestic. Each player now finding a kill afterwards. It's an even 3-on-3, but this is still a completely unsafe territory for West Virginia. Yes, they have tower, but past that, what is there to find? Thomas in Cubby will execute Gucci easily. Nobody checked this corner. We saw Majestic get a 4K there before, and it looked like Thomas had a chance to go for the same lap of luxury, as Abel will get a resurrect up above within tower. Leone spotted down on side. Excite hunting for the early kill, gets it back to an even 2-on-2. But do they lap back over towards tower to fight for that gunfight? No, they wait for Gunny to drop into the crosshairs of Excite, and they will get it. Seekers go. Abel didn't clear it in time. They now can confirm where he is, and Leone will go in for a double swing, pre-fire spray, and sticks it. Finally, West Virginia will stop the bleeding that has been this second half and get another round under their belts. But is it too little too late? Has Stony Brook's momentum still kept them in this? Or has West Virginia finally gotten the ticket necessary to get this map in this first start of the series under their belt?
Yeah, just looking really for anything here out of the likes of Stony Brook. I mean, obviously, it feels like just kind of a bit of a nudge, and West Virginia are starting to fall over. But it's one of these times where I think, West Virginia having the guns now, right back into it, you can't count them in or out. They're kind of at this weird point where they're just relying on maybe some of these kills to start coming their way. Stony Brook overextending, but with so many smokes and walls present inside the map, it's almost seemingly impossible to really find those, except for in the middle. That's why they're trying to flex themselves out there, because there's not a maze of smokes. There's not a maze of walls present from your Viper kind of adding on to all that clutter that's in the mix. You're looking to see whether or not, like right here from Leone, if something's going to be given to them.
Ooh, they lose their teammate, though, of Gucci, and while they tried to swing in afterwards, Leone has no way to escape from there. They don't have any movement ability. They don't have tech to get them away from that corner, and thanks to it, they will pay the price. Now Spike is dropped in a lobby, just on the edge here of this top of rope, and Majestic with a judge, a very solid weapon choice, it feels like, for the Stony Brook defense. Had the perfect chance to shine for one more, but Excite will shut that down. Gunny swinging, a 7-7 being taken off the board. And both players down below in sewer, they can only confirm the location of one. But now with the second one there as well, and Spike being gained, this at least can maybe send one more player out. Gunny, though, watching Dinks as they step out, and now Abel watching the exit onto main. Yeah, Stony Brook have everything they would like and more, it feels like, in that moment, Dallas. Confirmed positions, setting up flanks, watching cutoffs. It feels like a much more tactical game in moments like that, and West Virginia just are forced to play victim to the fiddle that is Stony Brook's domination, as the timeout will once again be forced out for West Virginia.
Right. Even then, those initial conflicts, the A site just feels like once you're there, it's not even still as much of a surefire kind of guarantor to get that site and hold it after the fact. We saw the Viper's Pit come to play in that 2v2 situation. It feels like even then West Virginia kind of gave up too much in that instance. When you go back to looking at this B side, it looks like this kind of fights have gone a lot more evenly across the board, but it just comes down to the question of, can they actually execute? They always go towards the middle, then they always go to A to follow up afterwards. We haven't seen enough utilization of this B site, I think, out of West Virginia to really kind of get a good read of what they can do on this map just yet. Because while the defense was great, Stony Brook was using the whole map. We got to see the entire map. Here, it feels like they're kind of just tunnel visioned a little bit. Kind of that same arrogance that we see at a lot of these teams when we talk about how they're being stubborn, how they're saying, we know we can win this site, so just keep on really hammered in till it happens. And well, I just don't think it's the play for that unless they go for all 5, and maybe that's the play they want to make there, but they are on an eco, so a bit of copium could be in play.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those moments where You hate to bring the idea that it is copium, but there's been plenty of options otherwise. The B-side's been fairly nice, and I'm not too sure if this is the right idea. Bandit does come up, though, to clean up after Dinks failed with that shotgun. Phantom's there for Majestic. They were watching and waiting, but Gucci was leveling their crosshair for a rope player and not ready for them to be actually up into space within tower, and that will cost them their life and will cost that even player split, and maybe the advantage for West Virginia to now be acquiesced back in Stony Brook's favor. An A77 with no visual acuity here in mid, either through mail or really with that ice wall up to spawn anyone either towards Vince. I think West Virginia are kind of at a standstill and need to question what's next, to wait for this ice wall to move into mailroom, or just as a second level step to maybe go through tower once again, just a different direction.
We have information knowing the gunny's up at least towards that mail heaven section of the B site, so where could the other player be? I doubt you're aware of the deadlock traps over there, because you know the deadlock is usually playing up towards that A side with the walls being present, but it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility to have your Sentinel have global utility. I mean, besides KJ and Chamber, it feels like everybody else does that. So what are you going to do here as a reaction, knowing with the information given to you where these players could be? And, well, once again, it looks like we're going over towards the B side. It's been a long time coming. This may be not the ideal round to do it, but hey. You get a wall going through. You had that little stun going to play, and you keep the kind of fights close around here on that back pillar. There you go. Some nice collective shots there to find at least one. You know, Abel's up towards the top. The flash comes through. The spike is not down just yet. You're trying to deny that May 77 for a singular second. While Excite finds two to back the man up. Damage needs to be finished here up towards heaven. You have the resurrection coming through. You're trying to bait out a singular body to maybe find the execution on the last, because you want map point worst case scenario, because you're at least going to overtime, even if you fall asleep at the wheel. But even then, the kill has not been guaranteed just yet.
Majestic will swing this, and more damage dealt, though. It's a pixel. This may be the wrong gun for Leone. A classic right click, a ghost spray and pray, no matter what, would guarantee you this, but it doesn't matter. First shot may miss, but the second, third, fourth, they just have to make one single point of contact and it's done. West Virginia, match point on map one, and it has been a battle for them in this second half to accomplish that task, thanks to just how well Stony Brook have been playing this. It's been no 6-round spree out of Stony Brook, but the 4-0 start surely felt like an even worse scenario for them to be in than Stony Brook were in that first half. And right now, when you're looking at the worst case scenario for West Virginia being overtime and the miracles that it felt like have been required to get those rounds under their belts, Stony Brook can have to be perfect from this moment onwards.
I mean, especially with how we saw them kind of keeping themselves afloat, as you mentioned. I mean, obviously the 4-round spree, getting yourself to a 9-7 situation where, I mean, seemingly always so close at just the kind of a flick of a pen. I mean, seeing how things are going, that's a round, and the Nico following where things just don't go too well, because that was the first rookie we have gotten here. But rightfully so, West Virginia investing for it, making sure to know how many resources at hand. I mean, obviously in a 1v2, making it a 1v3, so stressed out to say under any circumstance, please just find the win here. And well, now we're at least going to OT. You guaranteed that. You made sure you stayed afloat. The same thing Stony Brook did during the start of the second half. So we're trying to see how things can kind of continue from here, knowing that, I mean, obviously the A side should feel a little more confident riding that high of getting a thrifty over there. Imagine what you could do with guns. They're already pinging for it, maybe eyeing that, but they got to see what they get heaven first.
Gunny will watch this corner. Stony Brook would like this opener for free, but Excite shuts it down. And now, with only this really sound alarm reading at the other end of this exit out from Garage, the bigger question is going to be, can Stony Brook shut things down further? You get a 1-for-1 trade-off towards Mail. Dinks is confirmed up inside of Heaven. Shorty, as they step through that smoke, double dash onto Sight, and with Excite themselves coming out and dealing with Abel, it feels like West Virginia have all but guaranteed this round. Leone taking the head off Majestic. Thomas is alone. It's a 1v4. This is a miracle to be required from this player, and nothing will come of it. Not even a single kill, not even damage off towards Gucci. It's 13-10. A huge moment for West Virginia to secure that first map, and now heading over to Bind, the map they feel good enough to confirm for themselves. It feels like they want to shut down the narrative, Dallas, of saying, hey, who needs all 3 maps? We can get it done in 2. We just now got to accomplish the same task set out for us on Bind.
That's right. I mean, seeing how things are really kind of going for them, they have to make sure to really put themselves in a situation on Bind where they feel confident about it. But even then, still, worst case scenario, I mean, even then, if you end up not feeling confident by the end of it, you've at least given yourself that kind of leeway to kick things off where you're confident enough of winning Stony Brook's pick. And, well, we saw that first half and how just absolutely atrocious of a scene it was during that first half, where they were just mowing through round after round after round. But beyond that, I mean, that defense was where they kind of came back. So, I mean, obviously, good look for Stony Brook here to kind of slow things down, pump the brakes on West Virginia's cruiser there for a second. But it's just not enough by the end of it because, well, while the Stutters come into play, you're eventually going to reach your destination. So, West Virginia here, locking in for playoffs a little bit. We can see glimpses, and well, on Bind, it feels like they've loved locking in this map for a while here, and we've kind of gotten mixed results. So if there's a time for it to kind of really just come in swinging once more, this would be the day to do it.
Yeah, the narrative has been set, but if there's anything that can define you more than your past, it's your future that's still ahead of you. And I think Stony Brook have plenty more that they could bring to the table to make Bind a possibility, and very well that third map if we do get it forced out with a Stony Brook map 2 victory. With that being said, we're going to take a break before we head on over to map 2. The stream will be going down for just a little bit as we're working on some tech issues that are going over on the Twitch side of things. We'll get that all sorted and it'll be back up before map 2 gets underway. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back to